Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous. From presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I am proud to introduce you to Stephanie Cooper, a self described personal lawyer who gets her greatest satisfaction from clients who say that she has made their lives better. As a fellow attorney, sister, I gotta tell you, that's one motivation that gets you up in the morning and the last thing you think of before you go to sleep at night, making sure you make your clients' lives better. So bravo! What motivated you to become an attorney?
It's a little bit of a story, but I was a concert pianist and a chamber musician and never thought in my life of being an attorney. And I was also at one point in the beginnings of my career, a working hard. I don't want to say struggling because it never felt like a bad struggle.
Right.
Single mom. And I was at an after concert party for a very illustrious violinist who's a good friend who I used to accompany and listen to with all my heart. And his publicist knew my situation and said, you know, you could do what I did. And she said, and sometimes I have too many clients. So the next time that happens, I'm going to send them your way. And I probably never would have thought of it again. But 3 months later, she called me and she said, the Kozlovs have defected from the Bolshoi Ballet.
Wow.
All the networks are climbing up one side of them and down the other for an exclusive. And I told them you could handle it. To which I replied, I am uniquely unqualified to do this. She said, no, you can do it. And I did it. And I got a reputation. I have no idea why. And a business was born. And I did that business for 5 years. And all the questions I wanted to ask were legal questions. I had to call my lawyer for just about everything. But I also discovered that I didn't belong alone in a practice room all day for 7 or 8 hours, which is what it takes for that kind of artistry. And I woke up with the thought I could go to law school.
Wow.
So I did. I took the LSAT course and for a month, and I didn't know that I was crazy till I got there. And it explained everything.
So, Stephanie, what is your focus in the law?
Well, I made an elevator speech because every lawyer needs an elevator speech. And I focus on contracts. The contracts may be matrimonial because I am a divorce lawyer. They may be employment. And my other area of practice is art and entertainment law. So I like to say that I can form and dissolve relationships in almost any context.
Oh, I love it. What a great elevator speech.
Isn't that a good speech?
That's a good one. But now, okay, so counselor and colleague, let's talk a little bit about your career before the law and how it has informed your career in the law.
Well, maybe the most law practice, if you do motion, I'm not a trial lawyer. I've had 30 years of matrimonial cases and I've never had one trial because I settle everything. And I'm proud of that. Doesn't mean I'm scared though, because a lot of clients will come in and say, are they going to get the better of you? Are you afraid of the opposition? And I am never afraid of the opposition, but I don't like conflict. I like resolution better.
Tell me, in your opinion, what is the role of the attorney in relationship to their client? I mean, I was a prosecutor. I think you know that. So my job walking in the door was to see that justice was done. I didn't walk in the door thinking I need to convict this person. I walked in the door saying, okay, where is justice in this room? It's my job to identify it. What's the relationship between an attorney and client when you actually working for someone in that contractual or conflict resolution area?
Well, it's interesting that you introduced the subject that way because I clerked for a great federal judge, which was the most probably inspiring experience that I had. He conducted 5 trials at once. His name is Jack Weinstein, and he retired from the bench this year at the age of 98.
Oh, wow.
And he tried to get all of us to do alternative dispute resolution. And he offered to make me a prosecutor at one point when I came in and said I wasn't so sure about the private practice of law. And I'm not a prosecutor. but I feel the same way you just expressed about justice. To me, even if it's a client with a civil dispute, there is some justice at stake and we try to get it. And I think one of the most important things to tell a client is that there isn't perfect justice. They say that the best settlement is one in which all the parties are dissatisfied. So I try and get people to make their peace with what they didn't get and to evaluate in a very positive way what they did get.
I like that. I love that. As a matter of fact, I had one of my very favorite experiences, Stephanie, if I may share it with you, was I had the unique opportunity to go to Israel a few years back, and I got to sit with some of the women leaders in the Knesset. And for those who don't know, that is like Parliament, like the United States Congress.
Congress, right.
Okay. And the ability to see women from different opinions come together in a very solution-oriented setting, that really just inspired me tremendously. It made me think to myself, and forgive me for being so biased, just let the women do it. They can figure it out. That's exactly the way I thought of it at the time. I just found everybody walking into the room with the attitude of, let's try and figure this out. Right. Rather than walking in with their arms crossed across their body. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I agree with you. It could be a rallying cry. I think women should run the world, frankly. And now if you read in the Times, you see all the women heads of state, it's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the women who are leading us in the United States. What an absolutely inspiring community this has become. And I don't remember at any other time in my life seeing that. And I remember when I was 39 when I went to law school.
Wow.
And my father was a lawyer. He was a Philadelphia lawyer, but he was also a Reform rabbi. And I said, Daddy, I'm going to go to law school. And he said to me, I don't know whether that's such a good idea.
Huh?
So I said, he said, well, I think you're too sensitive to practice law. I think you should play your piano. And I said, Daddy, I'm too sensitive to starve, number one. Number two, I'm not maybe as sensitive as you think. But he was born in 1903, my papa. He didn't know women could function the way we see women functioning now. And
I actually think sensitivity is a very good thing. This goes back to what you just said, Stephanie.
Yes.
What makes you effective is empathy. Your ability to step into the other side's shoes, I think, is a very positive aspect of being a lawyer.
Might even be the secret.
There it is. You and I think we figured it out. I think we figured it out, colleague.
Okay.
So wait, without revealing any confidential details, tell us about some of the success stories that you've been a part of.
Okay, two things come to mind immediately. The first is what taught me the value of my law license, and it happened most dramatically about 5 years ago when a series of real estate developers decided they wanted to put a tall luxury condominium tower on top of my modest Upper West Side of Manhattan, red brick, rent stabilized apartment building.
Ooh.
And it took 4 years, and I only found out at the end of the 4 years I won the battle.
Fantastic.
And I learned about the real estate industry. I'm not a real estate lawyer. I learned about how the profit motive can make everything disappear. And I saw myself able to use everything that I had learned, and it benefited an entire apartment house full of people. And I'm still fighting that fight because those kinds of things can go on, but I prevented the construction. It's over. Every time I finish a case and there's a good resolution, that's it for me. I like writing as much as anything else that I do, so I get a lot of satisfaction out of a gorgeous set of papers. But I was a writer all through law school and before even. It's just using all of those skills and making life better for people.
I actually was going to ask you about your writing because I understand you have an interest in actually writing not just briefs, but a little more in the literature area. Tell me a little bit about that, and have you written anything that's been published?
Well, yes. I worked my way through law school writing articles for GQ and Bazaar and places like that because I was lucky enough to have a friend who was an agent and commissioned articles. And my first year in law school, a very good friend of mine who had a fabulous exercise method had a literary agent in one of her classes who said, this should be a book. So she and I sat down and talked it through, and I wrote a book on the bus on my way to law school, and Simon & Schuster published it. It's out of print now. It was called Get Your Back in Shape. It was motivated by my back being out in the first place and curing it. And it was published in London. And I've got some books cooking in my head, even as I sit here.
That is wonderful. So you, my colleague, are indeed a Renaissance woman. You've shared so much with us today. What's the one thing you'd like the viewer of this video feature to walk away with?
I think the inspiration that I took when I once consulted an extraordinary woman attorney, maybe you've heard of her, her name was Judy Vladeck. Mm-hmm. She was a famous woman's plaintiff's employment attorney.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very much so.
And at one point, when I was suffering from the slings and arrows of an outrageous partner, I went and talked to her. It tells a good story, but I've reached the age of memoir. I don't want to burden you with this. But she said to me at one point that they would have to carry her out of her office feet first, that she was only afraid of two things. One was of running out of cigarettes, and the other of running out of a book to read in the middle of the night. But it's that kind of enthusiasm. It's a joie de vivre that she showed all the way to the end of her life. And that's how I feel about all of this. So I thank you. I love your smile that I see as we're doing this interview. There's a kind of joy that you represent. And that's really what I think it's about.
Well, Stephanie, what you don't know is that Judith Vladeck represented me in a contract. One of my employment contracts. She actually was my lawyer. So I know her very well. I know how inspirational she was. I know just the kind of lawyer she was. And I knew her obviously from a professional and a personal basis. She's the kind of lawyer that we all aspire to be.
Exactly right. I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. I think that's such a beautiful way to end this two female lawyers talking about another female lawyer who really sort of paved the way in terms of how you practice law with dignity, ethics, and integrity, and you really do impact on people's lives.
Spectacularly said. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so very much. We have so much in common. I'm glad we had this time to share.
What a blessing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.